show. He'd worked for years on that show, and so had a background working with kids.
He communicated very well between the older actors and the kids.
When we were shooting that outdoor scene, I got sick and I said, I just don't feel well. And they said, well, let's finish this shot. And I threw up on the director's feet, and he let me have the break. He decided that I needed to take a nap and I needed a break.
He was very short. He was very serious. He always wore his little kind of sun caps, the kind of thing you'd expect to see at the beach. He'd pull down around his ears, and he'd be pacing back and forth.
And just was kind of gruff director, but he was a teddy bear.
You'd look at him and you'd wonder, how can this guy direct comedy? But then you would see what he would manage to get, capturing Tim Conway and Don Knotts.
All right. Get him on the rope! Huh? Rope him!
He'd make you work hard. You'd have to do things over and over and over.
Yeah.
But he got the good stuff out of you.
Come on, Clarice. You're gonna wake somebody up.
Apple Dumpling Gang dropped on my desk, and I read it and thought, oh, this is cute, this will be fun. And little did I know how much fun it was going to be.
The set decorating in general was a blast. I mean, it was really some cool, authentic stuff.
Disney is famous for taking time with the detail. I mean, you walk onto some of those sets and you can't believe that somebody was just here yesterday painting this thing. It looks like it's 100 years old. It's very nice, beautiful, beautiful work.
Well, that's a lovely comment for him to make. We certainly put a lot of detail into their little place and that little shack that the kids lived with Bill Bixby. This shack had been sitting there for, who knows, 15, 20 years, so it had to look pretty gross.
I remember that we had a scene where it was raining inside the cabin, and it was, all the drops everywhere and all the old pans and tin cups and things. They built the underground mine sequence where we find the big chunk of gold. It was all on a soundstage, on rockers, because there was an earthquake that happens while we're down there.
We had to have the floor split open because of the earthquake, so therefore it had to be built up on a platform. But that were the permanent ramps over the stage from which we had hanging the rigging with all the dirt and debris and what have you that had to fall when the earthquake struck.
I was scared to death to go in there. One of the script ladies had split her leg open the day before, so she had these big stitches, and I was afraid to do the scene.
There was a lot going on around us, debris and things flying around.
Of course, it was all balsa wood. It was all really light, and we were always pretty safe.
They didn't tell me it was going to start shaking. They said, just hold on to it and act like you want to make it stop shaking. So I was holding on to it until Clay O'Brien grabbed my hand and took us where we were supposed to go, and he knew from point A to point B where to move. And the day after, I said, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I wanted to do it again. It was great fun.
The bank was built on the same stage, actually, where we built the mine shaft. It was at the other end of the stage. It ultimately, as you know in the story, gets destroyed by our two characters, Amos and Theodore. And when we dressed that set after it was destroyed on the street, that was a lot of fun to create the illusion of that big wad of dynamite having blown this brick building completely apart. It was a lot of fun to first conceive how pretty it was, build it, but then take it to the other extreme and destroy it.
The firehouse is a complete firehouse. You may not see every detail, but when Disney builds a set, it is a real set.
That set ended up being this wonderful focal point in the story because of that hysterical scene with Tim and Don trying to get that ladder out of that firehouse.
I think we improvised the whole thing, didn't we?
Probably. It was pretty close. The production company gave us an extra week's pay to come in and work this out in the firehouse that they made. So we came in for a week. We'd come in at 11 o'clock, sit down, talk about the old days in show business, go to lunch, and go home. So we were there for a week doing this, and Don would say, I'm going to go get my laundry. We never touched the ladder, never just sat in this place for a couple hours and went home every day.
When Norman Tokar, he was the director, came up and said, you fellas got that worked out?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we just winged it.
Yeah.
I had to literally leave the stage. I couldn't watch them. I couldn't contain the laughter. There were several of us on the set that were just going crazy. It was just so difficult.
I think it was pretty close to 1, 2 takes. I mean, there were some cut-ins and things of that nature, but for the first business of taking that ladder out of there, I mean, that was pretty much just all in one piece.
I think that was one of those extemporaneous moments with him where he puts on the hat and that fire bell's right there and he decided to look at himself. And, you know, it just happened. It was just like, and so believable.
You know, you look back at some of the old movies, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, I mean, you don't see a lot of cutting, and we'll pick it up here and do it here. The whole dance sequence is on one shot.
On a count of 3.
I remember the big fight at the saloon, and that was a big deal to me as a kid because I didn't know that that was not real.
Donovan! Are you coming out here or am I coming in there?
I did the fight scene without a double, but it was very, very carefully choreographed.
Let me say one word.
One.
Dusty.
That's it!
I didn't know that things were rubber and that they were hitting them, and I saw her beating up, you know, Bill Bixby. To me, it was, I thought he was a really neat guy. You know, I think as a little girl, I had quite a crush on him too because he was so neat to me. And somebody was beating him up.
I don't know what's happened, but I can explain.
The only person that got a little bit hurt was Bill Bixby when I threw the water in his face because I did it at the wrong angle, and he was so precise that it went up his nose, and he was not happy.
Dusty, now look, what's bothering you?
He used some words that Walt wouldn't have approved of.
Mr. Donovan! Mr. Donovan!
I got Celia.
I was in the wagon with Slim Pickens. He was holding me. They actually had us take off behind the bank and go all the way down the street. Dusty, I remember, was afraid of horses, and I was a little afraid of horses. So for most of the time with me and Dusty, it is a mechanical horse.
Celia! Dusty!
When they put me on with her, it's a mechanical horse that we're on.
Hey!
And then the rest of it with me on it was on a soundstage where he was holding me and I was supposed to be fighting him.
Evening.
I found out you can get hurt making movies, so
Yeah.
I was real careful.
If there's anything that is falling or blowing up, Don is not there.
I never have done a stunt in my life, you might say. This gets to be kind of funny because if I had to, you know, jump off the top step, if it's 2 steps down, I got a stuntman in there, and I don't do that.
And I'm the opposite. I do all of mine. I'm a natural athlete, every muscle toned to perfection, so why shouldn't I? You see it in the movie and you say, boy, that's really up there. You know, I mean, that's, whoa, it doesn't look like it's a net or anything. But they say, don't worry, please. We're going in the studio to shoot this, so that it'd just be a movie in the background.
Get back, you cabbage head, you're gonna bust it.
However, the ladder is still at that height. And there's no net under it.
It's a long way down there, Theodore. Oh, don't look down and stop shaking.
You go, wait a minute. And even though the ladder is like rubber or whatever it's supposed to be, I mean, you are still hanging quite a ways before there's anything solid underneath it.
Don't do that.
So that it does look very realistic.
Oh, Matt, my spur's caught. Get out there.
And Don's fear on his face is very realistic, too.
I am. Get off. Get off.
I must have been scared because I don't remember what I did.
We must have been 20 feet in the air.
Coming through.
I mean, they had a couple of airbags under it, you know, but there's always somebody down there going, yeah, there's a little leak in here, Davey.
There he is on the street, trying to be so cool, trying to be not obvious, and he's getting the tobacco on his tongue, and he's spitting it out, and he's trying to roll, and he finally rolls it,